Hey, welcome for the inaugural episode of a Teach Equip episode of a podcast. I'm Lindsay Schott. This is Kelly Needham, co-founders of Teach Equip, which we're going to talk about. But welcome to our episode today.
So glad you're here.
Kelly, first of all, y'all have no idea how excited we are to be doing this, because this is the conversation we've been having for probably well over a decade.
Yep.
But for sure, we've been having conversations about equipping people to teach the Bible. Now,
right.
Kelly and I specifically are involved in equipping women to teach the Bible. So we're talking a lot about that, but it's anyone learning to teach the Bible. So we created something called Teach Equip. But Kelly, let's talk about why did we start Teach Equip? Why does it matter to you and I that everyday people are being equipped to teach the Bible?
Yeah. Well, there's so many answers to that.
So many reasons.
That's why we're here. We're going to spend a whole episode talking about this. But one of the reasons is we both feel convinced that local teaching is the most effective form of teaching. What I mean by that is a local teacher is somebody who's in your local context. You know them. You see them walk into church. You are able to walk up to them and ask them a question after a teaching. And they know you. Maybe not deeply personally. They might not be your best friend, but they're living in your ecosystem, in your space, in your culture, in your church community. And when that person teaches you, several things are more impactful about that than even the most well-gifted Bible teacher out there on YouTube. One of them is that Bible teacher knows you and knows your context. And so they can actually apply the scriptures with more effectiveness, more strategically than the best Bible teacher out there, because they know what you're living in.
Right.
If your church has just suffered a major loss, or there's been a lot of conflict, or there's something that's blown up in your local community that's not in the church, that's just in your culture, guess what they can do? Apply the Bible specifically and strategically to that in a way that no one online can do.
That's right.
And you as the listener know that person. You see their life. You don't just see their message, you see their life, which is highly, highly effective.
Right. So local teaching is best teaching.
Yes.
We love that. Local teaching is best teaching.
Yeah.
We tend to think that maybe the gift of teaching exists in like a broad, universal way, but that the gift of teaching actually exists for an actual local body.
Right.
Embodied body, a real community of people, that your gift of teaching, my gift of teaching, someone else's gift of administration, hospitality, mercy, whatever that is, was actually given by the Holy Spirit for an actual people, an embodied people.
Yeah.
Who can give you hugs, who see you cry, who know when you're having a bad day. I feel like that's significant, that it's for an embodied people that we'd rub shoulders with.
That's interesting hearing you say that even now. I'm like, so that you're addressing something that we all tend to believe, which is if I'm gifted in something, it's for the masses.
Right.
That's kind of what you're saying, is that we tend to assume that if I'm gifted to teach the Bible, that must mean I need to go out and find a way to move beyond my local space into these big, broader things, which obviously we wouldn't say that's sinful or wrong. We are
because
doing
we
a
have these podcast mics and stuff.
Talking to you who's probably not in our local context.
Yeah.
But you and I do teach the Bible.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons we're friends, been friends for a long time, is we both have wanted to do that. And we have taught outside of our local church. Nothing wrong with that. But what you're saying is something that why we created Teach Equip, why it matters to us, is at the end of the day, we think the ways we've been gifted by God are primarily to bless our local people, people that we do life with and cry with. That's really, I don't think we think that way. Why do you think we're so obsessed with I'm gifted, therefore it's for the masses?
I think it's a few things. I think in the best way, on the best version of that motivation, I feel big about Jesus. I feel big about him. I feel big about his word. I want as many people to know as possible. So the best motivation is that the gospel of Jesus is wonderful. I want a ton of people to know, and I feel excited. So I immediately think the thing I'm doing has to match that bigness, which is a beautiful, wonderful zeal that shouldn't ever waver. But what I think Jesus shepherds us in so beautifully and uniquely in his own life is the humility and understanding that big is not better. Greatness isn't measured in size of following. And even Jesus regularly getting away from the crowd, thinning out his crowd, thousands of people show up and he's like, you have to eat my flesh and drink my blood. And then a bunch of people left. And he's like, that's fine.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Wow.
So like he shepherds us in what doesn't normally feel natural, which is the everyday, the people in front of you, don't look over the heads of the people in front of you for something else. Value the thing and the people that's right in front of you. And that's always harder. It's always harder because talking, you and I have done this. I have spoken to audiences that I don't know, and I care for them, and I pray for them, and I love them. I feel a real impediment and weakness that I don't know the stories in this crowd, although I've asked their leaders what they are. And I feel like a different teacher when I'm at my home church because I'm like, I know that face and I know what she's going through.
Yeah.
I know what's happening. And so even when you think of speakers that go national and talk about those things, they, as speakers, feel like, I wish I knew you better.
Yeah.
I wish I knew your stories better because that would actually make me a better teacher. Yeah. And that's what we're going for is local teachers who know their people, who also feel well equipped to handle the word. Because I think what you and I also encounter is people who feel like, I guess I could teach and I like the Bible, but why would I if so-and-so is doing it so well?
Yes.
She's doing it so well.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that we get mixed up is what makes for effective Bible teaching, as we think it's this type of giftedness and communication, handling of the word. What you just said, why would I do this when I'm going to do such a subpar job compared to person X, Y, or Z who has a national platform, who's written books and Bible studies and is like, and if I taught and then I listened to that person's teaching, that woman's teaching, her teaching's going to be better.
Yes.
And in some ways, I think we've heard this before too, like, are those women like extra anointed, right? Extra gifted, extra this. We should only lean on them. And we would say, hot takes from Lindsay and Kelly, moving from the private conversation to the public space. But we would say most of what we think you're experiencing is those women are getting more practice. They are getting so much more practice. They are doing it week in, week out. And guess what? When you do something a lot, you do get better at it.
You do get better.
And when it is your profession, for example, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if it is your the thing that is your main profession, then you actually have the time and space in your life to equip yourself versus a woman in a local church who is gifted to teach, that the Spirit has gifted her to handle God's word. And she maybe even feel that. She might be reading the Bible, eager to explain it to others, delighting to explain it to others. Other people are saying, wow, that made so much more sense to me when you said that to me over coffee. Like there's real gifting. That woman who in that local church is just experiencing that gifting isn't less gifted than the national public speaker.
That's right.
She's just less practiced and less resourced, which is, again, why we created Teach Equip, because we're like, women just need the practice. And there's nowhere to do that.
Right.
Except going out there and like starting your own platform or something and doing it, which doesn't seem very wise.
Right. Which would be like, and if you love the humility of Jesus and if you trust him, you're probably going to hesitate to be like, I'm going to build a platform so I can say a bunch of things. Right. You're probably rightly going to be like, I don't know that that's the goal, but how can I feel like I love the word. I'm going to tell people the word. And now what do I do with it? And those people beautifully and wonderfully become small group leaders, and they should and all that. But there's still kind of a question mark of where do I go from here? How do I use this? Do I use this gift? And unfortunately, sometimes what happens is without any answers to those questions, immediately moves you outside of the walls of your church. You know,
it does.
It just immediately goes, well, I don't know if my church can or will equip me, so I'm going to look for that, either equipping somewhere or I don't know where to serve, so I won't serve here. I'll go somewhere else, which is, we kind of talked about the local church thing, that those gifts are for the local body. Yeah. But what is at risk? Like, what is at risk if we don't champion the cause of like local teaching is best teaching and your gifts exist for a local body? What's at risk if we don't like plant that flag in the ground and champion that and just say, all's free and love and more, like all is free, go wherever and do whatever, wherever you want.
Right. Well, I think that there are dangers, and we're seeing the dangers play out right now because of technology, because of how easy it is. For example, for you and I to pick up a podcast mic right now and do this. It's also easy for people who feel gifted to teach to do the same thing. I can go out into the public space in ways that we have never before, which God is using for great good. We don't want to you to hear that. There's nothing wrong with podcasting, but because of the ease of it, if there isn't a place to be trained in the local church, and there aren't outlets for teachers, gifted Bible teachers, to serve their local communities, to be trained and to use that gift.
That's right.
They will go outside of the church because there's probably that burning of like, I really want to do this. So I'm going to go take this course. I'm going to go follow this person. I'm going to learn to do this. I'm going to look for those opportunities. And then it takes all Bible teaching outside of the walls of the church into the public space, which seems all fine and good, except it's actually really dangerous.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous because you immediately lose accountability.
Yep.
And you immediately lose shepherding, pastoral shepherding. That teaching is meant to be under the local church because it's meant to be under the authoritative guidance and leadership of qualified pastors and elders that can help watch for theology gone awry.
Right.
That if you just go out into the public space, it's who's going to listen to my podcast and go with a theological grid, and listen for stuff and go, hey, that's off.
And even if someone's hearing a podcast and saying that's off, there's no accountability to that podcaster. Someone with a great theological mind could go to those podcasters and be like, hey, what you're saying is for sure off.
Yeah.
But there's no accountability or tie there.
That's right.
Or authority for them to respond and care anything about what anyone says about what they're saying.
Yeah.
And so there's influencers and there's Bible teachers and there's books, there's everything under the sun in form of media of people who want to teach, but they're not tethered to a body or pastoral eldership or pastoring in the best way. Like 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus are filled with the commands of these pastors to rebuke and exhort and make sure you are guarding what is true. And that's an assurance for everyone involved. Yeah. Like there is a bit of a pastor that is in the best way a sheepdog that's he is there to keep the flock safe. A good shepherd does that. And when you just decide to make a platform as fast as you can, you can do whatever you want, which is some of the reason why people do it.
Right.
And then for on a pastoral level, there's that danger of people say wild stuff. Some of y'all may have heard wild things on podcasts and from books. And you're like, that is not accurate. But here we are with them saying it, False teaching will always spread, but there's no accountability to it. There's that danger. There's also a personal risk for people who love the word and want to teach the word if we're doing so in communities where we are not known, where what gets presented is the most idealized version of your life. That people hear how smart I am. People see my insights. People see me when my hair is done and my makeup's on and wearing my favorite new shirt. And you have no insight into the back part of my life, how my marriage is doing, what my friendships are like, if I even have friends at all. What is my parenting like? What am I struggling with? And if we live in two dichotomized teaching, where teaching is the expression of my life that's idealized and my real life is something else totally separate, that is not healthy as a teacher. I am now too separated from that thing. My teaching must be expression of how I actually walk with Jesus in my real life, in real time, with real weakness and real struggle. And it gets lost if the only teaching happening is this elevated, polished, perfect version of that. Something is lost. And no one knows how to teach in weakness. No one knows how to teach still scared. We only know the best false version of something and not the real life. I teach when I'm still insecure.
Right.
I teach when I still don't feel good about my weight and my hair. I'm still struggling to teach when I'm in a dry season, but I'm trying to walk with Jesus. None of that gets shared. None of that comes out.
Right. Where when you're teaching in your local community, you don't have a choice.
Yes.
If your kid had a meltdown in the church lobby on Sunday and then you're teaching Bible study Tuesday night, it's there's no hiding that. You're you all know the struggles we're going through. So this verse feels particular, But that's that power that is
Yes.
present in local teaching, even if it's not as polished and as practiced as public presentation.
Yep.
It is actually more powerful
Yes.
in its ordinariness with all the and I'm still getting good at this. It's actually more potent, more powerful because you're living what we see Paul say to the Thessalonian church. He said, we gave you the gospel and also our very selves.
That's right.
That there is a giving of self. You know me, you know my life, my teaching, you're seeing my life, and I'm championing this truth, and it makes it weightier.
Yeah.
It makes it weightier.
It's huge. I was just talking about this with someone else. They were brainstorming a message and we were talking about it. And we say this a lot in Teaching Cup. We tell people the most powerful thing you bring to teaching is your transformed presence. That is the most powerful thing that happens in teaching. We usually think it's the information, and in that information being shiny, but it isn't.
No.
It isn't. The most powerful thing you bring is your transformed presence. And in the local church, that is the story that's happening constantly in your local body, is Jesus is moving in the lives of people in a local body, and we're supposed to tell each other that. We are like acoustic guitars. So like an acoustic guitar is big and has a hollow body and has a hole in it, and when you strum the strings, the sound resonates in the body of the guitar and then comes out. Without all of that resonance, the sound won't come out. You'll play like an electric. It's not loud. What God is doing is like in our life playing these strings, and it resonates in our lives, and we amplify that sound. That is what is happening in the church. God is playing a song. It's resonating in us, and it's coming out of us.
Yeah.
So who it comes out of really matters.
Yeah.
That's why character isn't just like an extra bonus for the life of someone who wants to teach. It's like this is actually what matters more than anything else. A deep, abiding relationship with Jesus that in weakness and in struggle and in everything loves him, and whose their life is a message unto itself. That it's like, my life speaks before my mouth is speaking.
That is such a good safeguard for the teacher, because public teaching, what you said, polished teaching separated from the people, allow me to teach even when my insides are a mess.
Yeah.
And it doesn't create that safeguard where teaching in my local church forces that, because like I think about sometimes you and I've taught together at our church. Okay. So we've taught through several books of the Bible together at our local church. We're in the same local church together, and we did 2 Timothy together, Ecclesiastes together. We've done other things side by side, but I don't remember which book of the Bible it was that we were teaching, that I was internally like, I'm not enjoying teaching. The Lord is sanctifying perfectionism and all sorts of things I can't name out of me. And I feel messy.
Yeah.
And if I were teaching anywhere else, I probably would have just been like, there's someone else who can do this.
Yeah.
One, I would have backed out of it.
Yeah.
But I didn't, because I have people like you in my life going, the Lord has gifted you to do this, and it will bless our body, and you should do it. I'm like, fine. And I would walk off that stage after teaching. And I know it helped people because they told me that, which is shocking, because I'm like, I felt like I was a mess on stage, you know?
Yeah.
But I remember walking off it and you being like, Kelly, that was so helpful, so great. And all I'm thinking is, that was the worst. I'm having this internal struggle that I can now verbalize to you. It's allowing me to continue being sanctified, those notes to resonate in me, what Jesus is doing in me, because I'm teaching people who know me and who are encouraging, who are not going to let me just tap out of my own sanctification journey. They're like, no, you sister, stay in it. Whereas it's just not the case. We both now do teach outside of our church.
Yeah.
And those people don't know us. And as much as we try to let them know us, relationships don't happen instantly, and trust doesn't happen instantly. And I can't share the whole of my life in an instant. But the people who I've walked with in this church community for the almost 15 years, like, they know the ups and downs of my journey, and they see they're the ones championing that gifting, which is what we're called to do in the body.
Yeah.
Is to champion one another's strengths.
Yeah.
Like we see in 1 Corinthians 12 and 14, that there's just this, everybody is called to bring what they have to the table for the benefit of others. And so it's kind of getting rid of this idea that I teach once I have it all together.
Yeah.
Too. Like,
right.
I'll wait till I feel real good. And then I'll go do it.
Right.
Nope.
When it's all come together, I've had lots of time to prepare. I feel good about myself, and then I'll proceed to use this gift. And I feel like Jesus has no interest in that.
No.
Every time I feel like he's like, do you think I'm going to give you a gift and then you get to use that like in unbroken victory and like feeling super confident in yourself? I just feel like he's like, I'm not doing that. Like I will rightly, you see it in the New Testament. I'm going to sow weakness into your life and tell you to do it anyway because I love you, because you've got to learn to lean. I've got to learn to lean on him and not me.
Right.
This is about him and not me. His Spirit is the one giving me the ability to do it. So just like First Peter, it's like whatever you're doing, teaching, serving, whatever, you're doing it with the strength that God provides, not because you're super confident in yourself.
Right.
Confidence, not necessary.
Right.
It just isn't. Like,
I know.
It's nice. It's nice.
Right.
But it isn't necessary.
It's nice when it's there. Well, the other thing it does for you, I think, is Jesus is the hero in the end. Like I think about those times. I had a long season where I did not like teaching.
Yeah.
And you know this.
Yep.
I'm sure we'll share more on the journey of podcasting together, but I almost quit many times.
Yeah.
Save for friends like you who were like, don't do that.
Yeah.
The Lord has given you. And through all of that, somehow people are being helped by what I'm sharing, which I left that going, Jesus, this is you are the hero of this. I only feel the great, profound weakness that I have.
Right.
And the walking in that weakness with others. And again, this is all happening locally.
Yes.
Like that's the only space it really can, with the care of my pastors looking at me going, no, we're glad that you're doing this. Please continue. That there's a safety in there to grow in these gifts, to use them in weakness. Teaching gifts really thrive when they're in-house.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you can't use them outside of it, but it's like their absolute best use is doing that. Like I think about, I have great kitchen knives that cut things that are great for chopping vegetables. Can I use it to open a box? Can I use it to do other things? Yes, but they shine in certain contexts. Teaching shines, the gift of teaching shines in a local church community. It really is at its best. And it's not as flashy and glamorous.
Nope.
But it is at its best, which is why we went over these past several years to go, how do we help that happen more? Yeah.
So you and I have been talking a lot about how this has happened for us in a local context, how our local community has encouraged us both as friends, and Kelly and I are here in the ones talking, but we've had different women on our teaching team. We have a women's director at our church. We know our pastor. So like those have all been people and friends who aren't even teaching, still speaking into these gifts and how we use it. We both have community involved in this conversation, shaping this in us. And we've had times in our church where we have been equipped, where we have been given tools, where we've been given books and tips and feedback, and we have been given a place to serve. I want to talk just a little bit to the person who's like, I don't really have that in my local body. I don't see a place where I can be equipped, and I'm not sure that I see a place where I can serve. That all sounds awesome. I would love for that to happen. Right. That's not where I'm exactly at right now. What would we say to that person?
Well, wherever you're at, that's on purpose that you're there. Yeah. So I think that's the first thing. We're so quick when you might hear our story, be like, that sounds amazing. Where's y'all's church? I'm coming.
I'm going to go there.
But you're at your local church for a reason. And so if you are listening to this conversation, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, I want it so bad. I don't see an outlet. I don't see any movement there. It's like, well, guess what? You're at that local church on purpose. And you're hearing this conversation on purpose. And so be convinced of that. The Lord cares about local churches. And he puts burdens on people within the local church, often because he does want to do something. Maybe through you praying and just spending some time going, I'm going to ask the Lord to see less of our Bible teaching outsourced and more of it homegrown. Yeah. What could that look like? I'm going to pray for that. I'm going to pray for my pastor. I'm going to not come in with like finger pointing and like, why aren't we doing this? But to really have, leadership and pastors of churches are just dealing with 1,000 fires a day that they're having to navigate and discern which one is most important to put out, and still cultivate deep love for God, their family's vision for where the church needs to go. It's usually not when somebody's like, trying to hold their thumb over something and go, no, we're not going to do this. Yeah. It's just, we haven't thought about it maybe. And so I would start with prayer, and start with being convinced that you're in the right place, that the answer isn't pressing the eject button and going somewhere else. Yeah. What would you say?
I think we say this together, that a faithfulness is better than followers.
That's right. Yeah.
Faithfulness to the gift that God's given you, the thing that he's doing in your life, does not always look like big platformed stuff. In fact, rarely it will look like that.
Yep.
That's like the visible part of the iceberg, and everything else about your faithfulness is the invisible part of the iceberg. And so the rest of this looks like faithfulness, like real character, and enduring love for the church that's faithful. That's like, I will serve where I'm not seen, and that will be good for me, because that's who Jesus is. Like, the amount of humility he took on to accomplish our salvation is shocking, to the degree to which, like, any part of me that's like, I should be seen for this, is just laughable.
Yes.
Is so let's at least have enough self-awareness and maturity to look at ourselves and go, yeah, that's there.
Yep.
I do want to do, like our buddy Zach Aswine said, I want to do a big thing famously as fast as possible.
Right.
I feel that knee-jerk reaction all of the time. Turns out it's just my flesh. There it is again.
Yep.
Now, Lord, shepherd me in the unseen, the faithful, the thing that you see that no one else may see, that he calls worth it, that he says worth it.
Yep.
The gospel goes forward more over a coffee table than usually big platforms.
Yes.
Life transformation happens on a life level. So, like Kelly said, embrace that you are at that local church for a reason, and the people in your life are in your life for a reason.
That's right.
If you love the word and you love talking about it, gather a few friends together and go for it. Talk about it together. You might feel like, I don't think they're going to care. Maybe they won't, but maybe they will, and maybe your excitement about it is supposed to be transferred to them.
Yes.
They might need your excitement for that. So faithfulness to this doesn't always look platformed. It is faithful to who and what is right in front of you, including the people and the local body that you're in.
Yeah. Well, and one place that churches always need teachers and always need help is in kids ministry.
Is in kids.
And we've been coaching Bible teachers now
Yes.
for like 6 years.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how often in my office hours I say to somebody, I need you to go find a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old in your life and communicate your thesis of that message to them. And if you can't communicate it to them in a way they can understand, then you don't understand your message well enough. I mean, I know very few things better for developing Bible teachers than teaching children.
That's right.
Because it forces you to simplify your message. It forces you to use illustrations. Kids think in pictures.
Yes.
The reason Jesus taught in parables, because we're all pretty kid-like at the end of the day. It's a great, so there are places to begin. Again, are we for a platform?
Right.
Or are we for faithfulness with the things that Jesus has placed in us? And if you feel that burden, I feel like I want to communicate the word of God to others. Do take it seriously. We would both look at you and say, you have a responsibility then to develop that gift, to know this book super well. If you've never read the whole thing, guess where you can start? Right there.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure I know every single book that's in here, and I know as well as I can. And I'm going to get about the work of teaching who's right in front of me, even if that's the kids in my kids ministry.
Right.
Because it's going to sharpen you.
Yes.
And it's going to bless your local body, which is the point of your gift.
Yeah.
And then pray for your pastors and pray for your leadership and ask for movement.
Yeah.
Pray for that.
Pray for it.
Yes.
And maybe don't assume the worst about leadership.
Yeah.
A lot of my own experience is like, they have 50 million things on the front burners and that thing is on a back burner. It doesn't mean that's not important. It's just like they have a lot of urgent things. It could be that you are very much helping your church by saying, I really care about this.
That's right.
I can do some legwork to get something going.
Yep.
That's what the body's supposed to do. It's actually not supposed to be a bunch of professionals, staff people, and pastors doing all the things.
That's right.
It's actually a living, organic body of people where every person there has something that they're offering.
That's right.
And so if you have a particular burden that you're like, I really care about the word, I would love to see teachers equipped, you might be the person that needs to start that. That might be why you feel it so strongly.
That's maybe why you
start
feel
it at
this
your
way.
church.
Well,
If you have good friends like my friends, when I say stuff like, how come there isn't, and they're like, maybe you're the person that needs to do that. So
maybe it's time to start
maybe
that
you've
thing.
got to do that.
Well, and we're here along for you in the journey. We are doing this podcast and creating episodes around these themes because we actually have a burden to see more local teaching happening. And that does take some rethinking. There's a lot of professionalized teaching out there, which again isn't wrong. and is very valuable. But at the same time, we really believe there are so many gifted teachers in local bodies who are going, I'd like to be equipped. I'd like to grow. I'd like to do this. How do I do that? And as two people who've been now coaching Bible teachers for long time, we want to continue the process of passing on what we've learned through doing that coaching on this podcast here with you. And so you can continue listening along. Make sure you're subscribed, follow along with us. And we'd love to hear from you. There'll be an email in the show notes below where you can send us questions you have. Don't worry, we've got about 30 items on our agenda to tackle. We do.
We've brainstormed 30 topics already.
In a very short amount of time. You can tell what we're passionate about.
It's fine. It's going to be fine.
But thanks for joining us for this first Teach Equip episode. Check out the show notes, and we'll see you next time.